Hello, I'm Chris Wynn, and welcome to another special edition of ROKER Report, where today we are talking to a Sunderland fan who came through the ranks and burst onto the scene in the early 90s before going on to make 145 appearances between 1993 and 1999. And he must have been good, because we gave him a complimentary nickname. Today we are privileged to be speaking to Martin Smith. Welcome, Martin.
Hi Chris, pleased to be here.
I was going to say, do you ever get tired of people bringing up the son of Pelé, or do you still lap it up?
It's still nice to be remembered. It's sort of, it didn't just stay with Sunderland either. It was one of them that sort of followed us all around to the clubs I went to. It was either somebody I knew who was at the club who knew the nickname, or it's, as I say, just talking to like journalists and fanzines, and they do a bit of digging and find out. So it is. It's sort of always stuck with us. And I say when it first come out, it was a bit tongue in cheek, and then you sort of think, oh God, this will just die off. But as I say, it's just still nice to be remembered for something. So if it's the son of Pelé, that's fair enough.
Yeah, well, speaking about being remembered, I'd like to mention at this point that I actually played a handful of games alongside Martin for a five-a-side team at Crowtree Leisure Centre quite a few years ago, and I made such an impression that he couldn't remember us.
That's more to do with my memory than anything else. That's nothing to do with you.
But I do remember one great assist. I got the ball from the keeper a couple of yards outside the keeper's box on the five-a-side pitch, passed it to you just inside our half on the left-hand side, and you pinged it right into the bottom corner of their goal. But clearly it was all about the assist for that. The highlight of my football career.
No, still some good times there. Crowtree had a great league going. It was just a shame when it closed down. But no, I still try and get out and play myself now, even just on a Wednesday and Thursday nights up at goals up at Beat. So I still try and get out there. Still try to stick them in the bottom corner.
Yeah, some good lads as well. So you've always been a massive Sunderland fan. So how old were you when you first started going to ROKER?
I mean, I'd be lying if I'd said an exact year, but I remember it sort of like it was yesterday, the first time I walked in. It was a reserve team game, night game, and obviously football wasn't shown as much then as it is now. So never seen a great deal of sort of the big stadiums and this, but I just remember walking up main stand paddock and looked out, and it was like, wow, this is something special. I was saying, my dad said, you said it was, I'm going to play you. I just remembered the pitch was so green, the lights coming down, and say that that first time I walked into ROKER Park, I can still remember it. So I would be thinking you're probably looking sort of late 70s, which obviously God, it sounds like a hell of a long time ago now. But yeah, it was then. That's the first time I remember going in, and then sort of going to league games over the years through the 80s. With different people, friends, family. My mum would take me at times. Say just loved it from the start. And the first time I went to ROKER Park, just never lost that buzz of going there. So yeah, just massive ever since I sort of can remember. Just loved Sunderland. Yeah. It's some big games down the years. I remember sort of Man United when we beat them. Clive Walker's hat-trick, the cup runs with Westie scoring against Chelsea, Gordon's header against Chelsea. You know, I was sort of at all them as a supporter. So just sort of great memories, and then to sort of get to the point where I signed for them, and then go on to make my debut was just something I said to my dad I would do. I did.
Kind of around that time, your first heroes like the likes of Gary Rowell and
I just remember sort of Stan Cummins, Gary Rowell, going back. Said because it's so long ago now, you kind of picture times of Ali McCoist, Barry Venison, Nicky Pick, you know, just sort of all them, Kevin Arnott, Sean Elliott. So I couldn't say I remember exactly when I first saw them, but sort of they were me heroes. Love Chris Turner, goalkeeper.
Yeah, brilliant goalkeeper.
Just going back so many. It's like so many probably a lot of people haven't heard of. You Joe Hinnigans and Ian Monroe's, Steve Berry's, you know. So yeah, I sort of had every strip from sort of, I think there was the pinstripe one quite early on. So yeah, just so many sort of memories here, and I think we sort of got into the later 80s, and sort of Marco just became a hero. I think everybody loved Marco. We'd seen sort of nothing like him before. So yeah, he was sort of my last big hero as a fan before I sort of went into the club myself.
That's a hell of a list of players. That it was brilliant listening to that.
Could name player after player, as I say, just going all the way back. Yeah, just so many.
Yeah. Well, I read somewhere that before signing for Sunderland, you'd spent a couple of years up the road when you were pretty young. How did Sunderland let that happen then?
I'd been playing for Sunderland schoolboys. I mean, things were sort of a lot different then. Yeah, the lads in the academies now, that I think they go in nearly every day, and couple of nights after school. Where back then there was just like an excellent school where you would go one night a week. And I remember playing for Sunderland schoolboys, so I would have been probably in my last year at primary school, and they asked me to go through there. I think there was probably 3 or 4 of us from the Sunderland schoolboys teams for that year who got asked to go, and I hadn't been asked into Sunderland by then. So when we used to train through on a Monday night through with Ben, well, luckily ended up training with Gazza a few times when he got in the first team. They used to keep him out. Yeah, used to keep him out of trouble. Bring him in training with 11 and 12-year-olds on a Monday night. So we would train with them, and I was there till maybe 13 or 14. So it was more, I think, towards the end of that when we trained. Gazza would come in and train with us. So yeah, but I knew you had Lee Clark, Alan Thompson, sort of Stevie Watson. They were all like a year older than me, so I've known of and sort of trained with them ever since I was there. But yeah, it was basically just because they were the first team to ask me. And say back then you didn't have, say, a lot of scouts and a lot of clubs chasing you, so you were sort of limited for choice anyway. So it was basically just first come to you just went there. And again, thinking back, I don't think the rivalry was as intense or as big as it is now. I don't know whether that was just me as a younger lad, but I never felt it was that intense. Or you go to Newcastle, because I remember like a few of my friends that we get free tickets. So a few of my friends who I went to school with, obviously same as me, huge Sunderland fans, we would sometimes go through and watch Newcastle on a Saturday. Didn't get the same buzz, but we go, you know what I mean? It didn't seem that wrong to do that. As I say now, you wouldn't think about doing that, you know what I mean? No. My son comes in and says, I'm out to watch Newcastle. You're like, all right, I'll pack your bags and you know what I mean? Yeah, so, but again, then it wasn't until I got a bit, I think probably 13 or 14, it was a case where Newcastle wanted to get me signed up on schoolboy forms, but by then I'd sort of made my mind up. I was in and around the England set up like schoolboys, so there was a lot more interest from all over the country, but I was always going to go to Sunderland. And so even though I was training at Newcastle and enjoying it, and they were great with this, it was, I'd known for a while I wasn't going to do the schoolboys and the schoolboy forms and the apprenticeship there. It was always going to be going to Sunderland. So yeah, I think it was about 14, 15 when then I started to go into Sunderland and train there as well during school holidays. And as I said, that was more or less when they'd asked me to go in and sign. It was sort of a no-brainer for me.
I mean, when you started getting into the youth, I mean, was this still kind of when Roger Jones was doing the youth?
Yeah, Roger. I think Crosser was still involved a bit. I think I made my debut for the youth team. I was still at school, and I scored 2 goals. So straight away, yeah. But it was Roger, Crosser. Obviously, Jim Morrow took me in. He was the scout. Did everything, youth development offers, I think they were called them days. So yeah, him and first manager when I went in would have been Dennis Smith and sort of Viv Busby and all that were there. So great people, great coaches.
I mean, you've mentioned a few coaches there, but who were kind of the biggest influences at the club when you were coming through?
It's funny because we went in and Roger and Crosby were there and I loved them, but they, as I say, you think I'm back and they ended up leaving, and I can't think if they left they must have left when, I think Roger moved up with Crosby when Crosby got the job. So then we ended up with Jonathan Trigg. I think he was 3 years older than us. Yeah. And he was coaching us, and that wasn't looking back was the right thing to do. You know, we've gone from having good experienced players to having Trigg. He was a great fella, but he was one of them. You'd end up having a couple of pints with him as well, you know, and it wasn't like the discipline sort of side wasn't there. And then I think Triggy left, and then there was a big change when George Hurd and Monty come in. You know, they were superb, just hard, so hard on you, but knowledge stuff you learn from George. As I say, he taught me stuff that I wouldn't have learned under somebody like John Trigg. George, obviously being a great player from the club, and just stuff he passed on was brilliant. And as I say, between him and Monty, Jesus, they'd let you know if you weren't doing something, but you respected them, you know. So yeah, it was a big sort of difference when they came into the youth setup.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with Malcolm Crosby and Roger Jones moving up, I mean, was there any kind of hints from Malcolm Crosby to say, when he took charge, to say, you know, you've got all you kids, you kind of got a chance, and I don't mind bringing you through if you're good enough?
Yeah, I mean, I'd sort of heard I was close to getting a debut probably a year before I did under Crosby, but he ended up leaving. So I think I'd been doing well, and I was close to sort of getting involved a bit more, because we played I think we played a practice game against Hartlepool, and I remember I did really well, and he said somebody he's going to save us millions in, and it was close, but we weren't having a great sort of time on the pitch with the first team. I think Crosby obviously got the job on the back of the FA Cup run, and it didn't work out for him. So as I say, I was close to getting on there. I'm sure he maybe gave Mickey his debut. I could be wrong, but there was like Mickey and Russ, obviously, and myself, who were the three who we always spoke about. And I think, as I say, we were a bit closer, but as I say, Crosby left, and then Butch took over the first team.
Yeah, did he take much notice of the youth teams, and did he have his eye out?
Okay, I know. As I say, Mickey and Russ played, so I think he probably did, but I think again I was sort of pushed like back down, sort of where I might have been close. I don't think I was even thought of for quite a while. So yeah, but again, it wasn't. I don't think. Obviously, I think like some Rushiaki. So I mean, there was reasonably young players in there.
Yeah.
You look at lads now, you see always a young lad, 21, 22. Well, we'd probably made about 50, 60, 70 games by then. You know what I mean? It was just a different time. So there was probably younger lads in and around it. But I think with Crosby, you always felt you might have a chance, because he'd always looked after the youth team, the reserve team. So he knew everybody, where I think, as I say, Butch was probably a bit different and wanted to maybe just try and get that bit more experience in.
Yeah. Well, he didn't bring you in, the season he took over, but then he had that pre-season where he brought in Alec Chamberlain, Rogerson, Derek Ferguson, Phil Gray, Andy Melville, and then it gets off to a shocker when four of them are involved in the car crash.
Got round the roundabout, didn't it? Down Roker, I think.
And then we'll go and get hammered at the baseball ground on the opening day of the season, 5-0. I mean, were you kind of on the verge of it at this point? Because I can't imagine it being a happy camp.
I mean, it's weird. I was never anywhere near the first team squad. I mean, you think, as I say, then I think there was only one or two subs, so it's not like you'd have a travelling squad of 20 like you do now. But I'd never travelled away with the first team, never been in a match day squad, and that is even with sort of them injuries. See, I think he was given a bit of money to spend, wasn't he, that summer? So the squad was boosted, but say it wasn't until October that I made my debut, and as I say, that was the first time I'd been anywhere near it, and it was, I think, it was literally on the back of we'd played a practice game, because it was a Wednesday. I think we'd maybe played a practice game on the Monday, and I tortured him absolutely, like tall Butch a new one. It was like I was on fire in the game, and I did. It was one of them games where I played really well, and I think that was sort of it that got me. He's probably thought, Jesus, if he can do that, let's stick him in. And it was literally going from like not being sort of in a squad. I mean, you trained with them because the squads weren't as big. So it's not like now where you have the academies and then a first team. We used to get trained with them quite a bit. So he was sort of aware of it. But I say that was it, sort of from seemingly that practice game, just to go on, right, you're playing on the Wednesday. But again, I don't think it was. We trained on the Wednesday morning, and I wasn't really aware I was going to be involved. It wasn't until we did the practice game, sort of like set pieces and that in the morning, you'd play them. So it didn't give me a lot of time to get too nervous, which might not have been a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, it is amazing. I was looking at, like I said, it was 20th of October. We were 22nd in Division 1, and we'd just been hammered again 4-1 away to. We'd just been hammered 4-1 away to Middlesbrough the game before, and you just you just came in kind of out of nowhere because you hadn't been involved at all. But it was a month before your 19th birthday, so it wasn't like you were, it wasn't like you were kind of 16, 17 thrown in. You were, you were kind of 19 years old, which, is about the age you probably should expect to get the nod at some point.
Yeah, you see it was, you think now lads get a bit, I should be in and around it. And it, but as I say then, it wasn't. It was, it would have been my third year in the club. So I think I'd probably done to me 2 years sort of white. Yes, that would have been going into my third year. I was given a pro, I was given a pro on my 17th birthday, but like if you'd gone over how long you'd been in, I'd have done me 2 years and gone into sort of my first year pro, I think it was. So yeah, it was, again, for somebody I'd been in the England schoolboys set up. I've been with England youth, so you would think like a Division 1 side who's struggling, you'd like to think you would have a chance of getting in it. So obviously I did come October on the back of a 4-1 defeat. That'll explain why we did a practice game on the Monday afternoon. He must have been fuming. Done a double session.
Well, the other strange thing, I might be wrong, but I was looking through things as well, and like 4 days earlier, so it must have been the Saturday, you'd actually played for the youth team against Bradford and scored then.
Right, yeah. I was still a youth team player, because I think I remember towards the end of the season, I think they were doing well in the FA Youth Cup, and I think I sort of asked to play. Something happened that I wanted to play for the youth team, but they wouldn't let us. So, yeah, I was still playing. I think not. I would have thought I might have played against Sheffield United on the Saturday, but you must be right with Bradford. But yeah, that's how it was. And again, I think there was probably a spell. I'd have played more first team games within about 3 months than I'd have played reserve games. It wasn't like I was sort of playing there every week. As I say, that then sort of senior pros, if they weren't in the first team, would play in the reserve. So there was a lot of senior pros. So I remember there's times I'd be playing left back for the reserves just to play, So I say it wasn't to say so long after when I had more first team games and reserves.
Well, that's some experienced players at the back for Luton. They had Trevor Peake and John Dreyer, who I think were probably about 100-year-old between them at that point.
Jesus.
And actually,
I can't even remember who I was up against, right? But, as I say, it's one of them.
Des Linton,
right. Yeah, I know that name.
And up front for Luton that day, they had John Harton and Paul Dickoff up front.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Didn't score, both got taken off. And
I wouldn't have known, I wouldn't have known. I remember Harton was there, I wouldn't have had a clue. Dickoff played. I must have got kicked off him. I would remember that.
And then, so Don Goodman puts us up 12 minutes in, and then on 19 minutes, there's a free kick given for a start. How did you manage to get on free kicks on your debut?
That tells you that that's a team struggling for confidence when they let a 19-year-old lad take free kicks.
20 minutes into his debut.
Yeah, I think it was more to do with the morning. We'd done the set plays on the morning, and I'd had 2 or 3 from exactly the same place, and I think I scored them all. Where whoever might have been on them, it just wasn't happening for them. So it was basically just down to right, you're on free kicks. So again, just dream come true.
I was going to say, when it went in, did you know what to do with yourself when it went in?
No, when you look now, even Don's goal, I've got sort of video footage, and I'm first to see Don, and I just give him an old pat on the back and sort of saunter away. Like this day and age, people the tops off and jumping on each other. I was like just a proper understated young lad who got on the team, didn't know what to do, just patted him on the back and wandered off. And it was sort of pretty similar to my goal. It was just didn't always say. I think because it was a free kick and I was there and you stand and there's a couple of people around you, I think it was one of them where people just got hold of us anyway. But it was, Let's say I just remember just thinking just to hit it as hard as you can. And it's one of them, I think, as a goal, it had grown a few legs down the years, people saying and bent it in the top corner and all this. It's one of them I don't like it seeing it popping up on Twitter and stuff, because people just say I just struck it down the middle and keepers drove out the way.
Well, that adds an extra couple of yards on every year.
Exactly.
But we talked about how the team was doing. It doesn't sound like you did, but was there any extra pressure because we were down there and the team was struggling? Or did you just kind of crack on with it because it was your debut? And
yes, no. I do remember being nervous, but I think about it, I didn't think I felt any pressure. I think it is one of them as a young lad, you go in, you can the fans are right behind you. You know, when you've played 20, 30 games, you do something wrong, they'll probably let you know about it. But when you're a young lad, it's sort of a free rein and you're playing without any fear, really. I just remember sort of not fear. I felt nervous, but not where I felt, I'm out my depth here, sort of thing. As I say, for debut, I think it was, apart from the goal, I think remembering that I did quite well. I think Jamie Lawrence made his debut the same night on the other wing. So I think it was good that there was not just me making his debut, and Jamie done well also. So, yeah, but no, just thinking back, no, I didn't think it was sort of felt any pressure to say. The fact I wouldn't have had a clue. We were 22nd in the league there before that game. No.
Yeah. Well, you say you thought you did well, but I remember it. You know, you came in, debut, scored that goal, and I think that was it. It was basically all the lads. It was, you know, it was all about kind of Martin Smith. It was basically all the talk, was it? Right? Because I mean, to be fair, we had some good players, but you know, we weren't performing very well on the pitch, and I think it was just kind of this new player out of nowhere. It was almost like a new signing, you know, that would make a major signing at the time. But I mean, you kept your place in the first 11 under Butcher, obviously with a start like that, and we won the next game after the Luton game, which is West Brom at home. But then we lost the next 6 after that, and Butcher was gone. Yeah. Did you have mixed feelings when he left, or did you think the writing was on the wall at that point? Because he gave you his chance as well.
Yeah, he did. I mean, yeah, he did. But again, I can't remember thinking, oh, I'm happy he's gone, or I'm not happy he's gone. I think it was one of them. I'd sort of been through a few managers already by that time anyway. You know, it was like you sort of just know at some point that's going to happen. There's a game. I wouldn't have known we'd lost that many thinking back, but at the time, obviously, it wouldn't have been ideal. I think it was, we got beat off Southend. I remember one. I'm sure it was Southend. That might have been Mick actually, but I'm sure it was Butch. We got beat up. We got battered at Tranmere away forward. I think we went 1-0 up, Don scored. And Ian Atkins lost it after the game in the dressing room. Just saying, like, use effing lot. Pull your finger out, we'll be here longer than you, so you best pull your finger out. And I think they were both sacked on the Monday. Yeah. You know, but it never is nice seeing somebody lose a job. I played, I think, every game under him, so obviously I think now I can't think one way or the other what I was thinking, but I'm sure at the time I probably was thinking, well, they're the guy who's given me a chance. It's going to have to start again. But it was, as you say, it was like, you think there was some good players, but it never really happened. But again, I think it was one of them, the older players, Butcher had some bad results, and he used to run the legs off them in training. I mean, we did, it's probably in the middle of that run, actually, thinking back, where we got dropped off through South Shields, right, run back to the Roker Park, and then that's a fair old run. Got back, and then they freaking same again. Off you go, back on the bus, back to South Shields. You're like, oh my God. Okay, and it's like stuff like that. It doesn't get you seeing your players on board, you know. And come October, November, you're going to be probably as fit as you can be anyway. So the fact you're getting slogged like nearly 20 miles, running 20 miles on the concrete on a Monday or a Tuesday is probably not going to do team morale any good. Yeah. And I think Mickey Cray tells a story, I can't remember, because Mickey will have been up the front, so he'll have seen that, but I'm sure it was Tony Norman, Don Goodman had actually jumped on a bus down at Whitburn. So they've gone past on the E2 bus. And then I'm sure they sort of waited in Roker Park till about 20 people had gone past, and then they just jumped on the back of the group and just sauntered in. So again, it was for me being in and around that of like sort of players that you sort of grew up and admired. It was great, but losing that many games on the bounce obviously wasn't ideal.
I was just going to say that was right. It was Southend 2-0 his last game at home.
It was it? Yeah. So we got to be battered at Tranmere.
We got back to Tranmere the week before 4-1.
Right, yeah. Well, Atkins has come out with that statement. It wasn't the Monday. It must have been the following Monday after we got beat off Southend at home. But I remember that being like quite a hostile game. I think, again, when you're struggling and you've been down and you're 4 and 5 games on the bounce, I think as a player, you know something's got to change. You're not going to go from getting beat 5-6 games on the bounce to winning 6 or 7. So you sort of know something's coming. And again, sometimes it is, it's right. You just think, well, just do it. Let's get it and start fresh, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you just come in, and then Mick Buxton's appointed. Moving up from taking the reserve team. I mean, were you relieved that it was someone who knew what you could do from within at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I'd always got on with Mick. As I said, I don't think I'd played masses reserve team games, but I'd trained with him. And again, he sort of wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but I liked him in terms I think he liked what I had in terms of ability, and he was happy for me to express myself, but I felt comfortable with that. So, yeah, it was good. And he brought sort of Trevor Hartley came in with him, who we really liked as well. Coach, very bubbly, and I say it was good for me at the time that it was Mick.
Because, I mean, he came in and made us a lot more solid after taking charge, and we ended up finishing 12th and actually doing okay. It was a hint of a playoffs, I think, at one point. But by making us more solid, did that help you in a kind of, the way that he wanted to play? Did he just let you go, or did he want you to do the defensive work?
I mean, it didn't sort of say, you've got free rein, don't bother coming back and all this, but it was sort of, when you get the ball, just do what you're good at. It was that. I mean, he was very on the training ground, right? It drive you mad because he'd have you out there for 2 hours doing set plays and team shape. And again, as footballers, all you want to do is play five-a-side and shoot practice. You know what I mean? It's like, so you're going through that sort of stuff. And I remember for one day, whatever, I was doing corners. I was on the corners and we were out there in the afternoon. And I just, for whatever reason, the left foot just wasn't working on that day. And it must have been out there about 40 minutes while I was just trying to hit the near post with a corner. And I could see the lads getting angry and thinking, are you winding us up? I go, what? You were left foot and you just kind of clip one into the near post. So, but it was that he'd have you out there doing stuff like that till you sort of got it right. So, initially that first season, it was, he did make us stronger. I remember us getting some good results. But again, you sort of looked at the dressing room and felt it should have been like that anyway. Really, we should have done better. But I think towards the end of the season, I think a couple of results just tailed off a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he kept you in the side as well, and then even going into the following year, he keeps you in the side, and we don't get off to a bad start. And we're sniffing around the playoffs again, kind of first quarter of the season, and then in the November, you get a call up for the England under-21s to play the Republic of Ireland at St James's. Was it Dave Sexton who called you up at the time?
It was Kevin Keegan.
Was it?
It was Keegan who was in charge for that game. Yeah.
Right.
Well, he was Newcastle manager at the time. So I'd got the call up for that. Yeah. Went through to meet up with the team at Gosforth on the Sunday night. I think the game must have been a Wednesday if we didn't meet till Sunday, but had some really good days training through there with Kevin Keegan. He was absolutely fantastic, actually. So it was just good to be aware with some good players, one or two who I knew from coming through the ranks earlier, but then others, sort of Jamie Redknapp was there, Trevor Sinclair, so some big players now. So it was a good experience, and an interesting one, especially the game.
Just remind you some players in there. We had Paul Gerrard in goal. It was David Unsworth, Steve Watson, Sol Campbell, Dean Gordon, Chris Bart-Williams, who you ended up coming on for, Nicky Butt, Trevor Sinclair, Graham Fenton, Julian Georgiam, and Noel Whelan, who got the goal. Yeah. Good players. It
was some good players. Yeah. It was a good trip. All really sort of thing I was probably one of the only ones. It was the first time in the squad, but they all sort of made us welcome. I'd say Jamie Redknapp especially was fantastic. Sort of introduced us to everybody, and it was, you say, when you hear stories of people going away and people not looking after them, it couldn't have been further from the truth with that one. So it was a really good experience.
Yeah, I remember watching the game. It was on Sky. Two memories of it, obviously the crowd's reaction, but I'm sure at one point you ended up with a ball near the corner flag and started keeping it up.
Yeah.
Or you had to keep it up a few times to clear it or something like that. That's about the only memory I've got of the game.
No, it was attacking. I was in the corner, got it, kept it up a few times and put the ball in the box. Well, it was, say when I've come on the boos and again the lads who were on the bench were like, just go on and give them a clap and all, and I said, nah. But to say I come on and did well, I set a chance up with Trevor Sinclair and did a few other bits and pieces. But it was a hostile reception going on. Play for your country and getting booed. It was. Well, I said at the time, I wasn't bothered. I wouldn't give two stuffs if they.
Yeah.
I'd rather they booed us, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, they didn't know what to do. I think when you juggled it and knocked it into the box,
Yeah, I mean,
it was the only time they didn't boo you.
it did. Yeah, it did sort of die down by the end. And when I was coming off at the end, I got a claps. It'd be all right. There was quite a few Sunderland shirts there, so it was nice to see a few of them shirts in the ground.
Yeah, just out of interest, actually, in their team in the Republic of Ireland, they had Shea Given in goal and had Gary Breen as well, who went on to play for Sunderland.
I don't know if did Stephen Carr play. I can't remember.
Yeah.
It was Stephen.
Graham Kavanagh as well.
Carr played, aye.
Yeah. So yeah, some good players in their team as well. But you get back to Sunderland, and typically our form from Christmas was pretty woeful. But as a 20-year-old who came through, burst through, your form is kind of, head and shoulders above most others at that time. We couldn't get going. I mean, how did that impact you that the team was struggling at the time?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough because, as I say, we'd have games where we would do really well and we'd look the team, but I just remember the consistency wasn't there. And again, you just sort of got the feeling it was going the same way as the previous year on the butch, seeing your players starting to possibly. Say Mick was hard. I say Mick, I liked Mick because of what he sort of let me do and express myself, but there was airs to it where discipline sort of wasn't there. Again, for me, he was good in a lot of ways, but in terms of like the intensity wasn't there every day in training, and it was like you just sort of even first it wasn't the intensity what we were going to get used to under Reid. It was just drifting, and as a young player, you need guidance. You know what I mean? It was like, well, if you're telling me this is all along we should be training and I don't need to do extra this, extra that, you just think, oh, well, you're the manager, you know what I mean? So yeah. I think in a lot of that was the same with everybody. Sort of, I think they'd got sick of listening to his voice, to be honest, because he wasn't the most bubbly, and I think it was one of them. Suddenly you're out there 2 hours in the afternoon and it is becoming a chore for the older players. It's like, we've done this. And when somebody new comes in, if they do stuff and you're getting results, people will put up with a lot of stuff. Like, players will put up with a lot of stuff, but if suddenly, right, you're out there 2 hours and you're going through the same stuff you did 6 months ago, it's not working, people start to become disillusioned, and I think that's sort of where it went again. It just needed freshening up. Same Mick was I liked him, Sunderland bloke, good fella, but just, I think, in the end, sort of didn't have the authority or the respect of a lot of the players to move it on to obviously where Reid did in the end.
Yeah, but it's typical Sunderland because you're only 20-year-old and you're already saying I've seen it all before. You're going through it a second time.
Yeah. You see it sort of thing. Oh, we go again.
Yeah.
You can see certain things happening, thinking, well, we know where this is going to end up.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a good season again.
Yeah. That season as well, I read that Aston Villa had tabled a $1.5 million bid to get you to go down there. I mean, were you aware of any interest that came in for you around that time?
I knew there was teams. I think Coventry were always rumoured, Aston Villa, but I think it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I think Ron Atkinson released a book and said he went in after that game and just says, how much do you want for your left winger? It was like...
Was that the cup game?
Yeah, I'll give you $1 million now. I think that's what he said in his book. I think I played against Earl Barrett and he said he'd never seen anybody give him such a hard time as I did that night. So yeah, there was always stuff in the papers about a few teams looking at it. I think Blackburn as well. But again, I was happy. I was playing sort of reasonably fresh in the team, playing for my hometown club. Things were going well for me personally, so it wasn't something I'd ever took a lot of notice of, to be honest.
So it never got close then?
No, nothing ever. There was never any talks of me sort of going. I was under contract and I was never sort of going asked to leave at that point. So that's something else I found in a couple of years. Why, you go back a while now. John Kent, the old BBC Newcastle reporter, he said to me that Bob Murray had told him after that England under-21 game that Kevin Keegan had put 1.5 in for us. Now, I don't know for Newcastle. I wouldn't have went, but to say that's sort of the impression I'd made at the time with him, but that's something that I was told later on as well. So yeah, so around that time it did seem like people were putting bids in for me. But I remember Mick coming out with something in one of the interviews saying like I wouldn't be going anywhere and I wasn't for sale. So as I say, I was never looking to leave. So it's not something I ever asked too many questions about, to be honest.
Well, I mean, that says a lot how well you were playing in your first few games, because that Villa game in the Cup we're talking about, that was only your third game, which is pretty amazing that people are doing that after your third game professional football and bids are coming in for over $1 million.
Yeah. No, I see that especially them first 2 seasons. I think if you're a young player and you're playing quite a few games, it's the same these days. If you're in the Championship or in League 1, 2, and you're a younger player getting into a team, scouts will be there watching. But I think the fact that I was scoring goals as well from midfield obviously alerted a lot more people to stuff.
Yeah. Further down into that season, Mick Buxton is sacked after a disaster at Barnsley, and then Peter Reid's appointed with 7 games to keep us up. I mean, I think you might have mentioned it earlier on, but was that change on the training ground just immediate as soon as he came through the door? Yeah,
it was. He was just, again, the gaffer. He come in. He was different that first 7 games, and he went on to be. I think he come in and knew he had to lift us. Us were in trouble. We were in free fall in a lot of ways, and he come in and he was bubbly, but also the intensity was there, though you could see it. He would train with you at times, and he was intense as well when he was training with you. But he did, just lift it, give lads confidence. And again, he played in World Cups. You know what I mean? It's everybody knew who he was. You know, when I remember I was in the car listening on the radio, I was like, "We're getting Peter Reid." And it was like, Jesus, everybody knows, and it was a story at the time. So he come in and it was what we needed. We'd have gone down if Mick had stayed. I've no doubt about that. It was seeing now. It's so I keep saying, but I can't remember exactly. But I remember saying to friends and that this is bad. This is only going one way at the minute. So it was massively needed to change.
And he came in, won the first couple, and then he drew, and then we got beat. And the 4th game. And that led us to a showdown with Steve McMahon's Swindon Town at Roker, who were directly below us. And if we won, it was almost certain we were going to stay up. But if we got beat, we were right in the mess again.
Yeah.
And you get the winning goal, which actually Peter Reid quite often refers to when he's asked what the most important goal is while he was Sunderland manager.
Yeah, there was something. I think I saw something again last week, and it's in his book, and he always mentions that goal. And never sort of changes his opinion on what was his most important, which again for me is obviously to score a goal, but for Sunderland fan, I know you've played a part in somebody who ended up doing so well for the club's sort of best moments. That's great, you know. And but it was a typical Roker Park day, windy, wet, and it was a massive game. To see to strike one and score in front of the Roker end, and it was fantastic. I think that was because I think we went to Burnley the week after, more or less safe. I think we maybe named the pointers, but we said we get a point at Burnley and then we West Brom. But I think it was one of them, Swindon. I think that was more or less you knew pretty certain it was job done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you see the footage, you said it was a little bit of rain. Blimey, it was absolutely horsing it.
It was.
You could hardly see your goal in the camera.
Yeah, no, it was one of them Roker Park days.
Horsing it down. And you managed to, I don't know how you kept your feet, you kind of volleyed it home from the edge of the box. It was for the conditions. It was a cracking goal.
I think I'd won the free kick because I was playing against, I'm sure it was Mark Robinson was right back, who ended up at Newcastle, and I played against him a few times, and he was hard work, he was nasty, and he smashed us, and we got the free kick, and the free kick goes in. I actually touched it on at the near post, and it goes over the end. I'm sure it's Andy Todd who heads it back across, and it comes straight back to me. So I didn't really have time to think about it, just sort of keep it low and fire it back across the goalkeeper. So yeah, luckily it went in. I think the conditions helped because it would have zipped off the turf a bit with that little shower of rain we were having.
close to just stopping before the goal line. One of the two. Yeah, you scored in the last 3 games of the season and obviously kept us up. Reid kept us up. You were flying, bit of optimism around the place. But then, like in pre-season, you pretty much missed pre-season. You missed the trip to Ireland. You're injured. Then you come back, and then you're sent off against Liverpool. Then you pick up another injury. Just seemed like one thing after another after that.
It was, yeah. I actually think I was in Ireland, but I'm sure I'd done my thigh quite early on in it. I'm pretty certain I went and I got injured pre-season, which from sort of experience down the years, if you miss in pre-season, it kills you. It takes you quite a while to get back up to speed. So we come back now. I remember playing a few games sort of against local teams. I think I played up a concert, maybe Crook or Brandon, somewhere like that, just to try and to get fit because I'd missed so much. But I think I did start. Did I against Leicester? Was it against Leicester? First game of the season that season in the league?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I started. Yeah.
Played the first 2.
It was one of them. I was sort of not rushed back, but it was you coming into it knowing you sort of hadn't had the pre-season you wanted. Yeah, so I can't remember. It was the second game, Norwich away.
Yeah, you came off at half time, I think.
Came off at half time. It was absolutely, again, going back, I'd missed the pre-season and it was down there. I think it was about 30 degrees. I remember being knackered. It took me off. And then I don't know when my next game was, but I think I maybe played a couple more. But as you say, it was just one of them where it was stop-start. But I think I got put with a fitness coach, actually, which was the best thing ever happened in my career for us. Like, that's why I was like Reid. He put me with Steve Black, who I used to go through. So I think it was 2 weeks. So I'd obviously come off at Norwich. I can't remember if I maybe had a couple of little more super pains, but I think I got injured again. And then he sent me with Steve Black. So I'd go through and train through Whitley Bay at 6 o'clock in the morning, come back, train with the team, and then I go back and train through Whitley Bay 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I was doing 3 sessions just for 2 weeks, and that got me as fit as I'd ever been in my life. And it was sort of from then on, I had a different sort of outlook. It really showed me something. Doing that for me was the best thing. I felt that had happened to us. Maybe he's under Mick and things were drifting, even though people think things were going well. I'd scored 9 goals, 10 goals, and things were going well. Things were sort of, I probably wasn't living. I was allowed just to do what I wanted as such. The demands weren't on us. And saying that Reid put that demand on us and sending me with a fitness coach was fantastic. So I think I come back. Me and Russ did it actually, I think. And then we came back and we played Reading. Maybe it's on the Saturday. I think me and Russ come on and sort of changed the game. And then had a little spell in the team. And say, but ultimately, I got sent off against Liverpool when things were going well. Things, as I say, I'd felt as fit as I'd felt. Reid seen how hard I'd worked. I think he put me into centre midfield. I was playing in the centre midfield against Liverpool, or maybe it's like as a 3, but as a midfielder. So he'd give me that responsibility. And as I say, just that moment of madness, just smashing John Barnes. You say then you're on the back of a 3-game suspension when you sort of work so hard to get back in the team. And they say it was just a gift, just that sort of stop-start to the scene.
Yeah. And Rob Jones came flying in, didn't he? And he got sent off.
He did. Well, I knew. I mean, it was a bad tackle. I mean, this day and age, there's no doubt about it. It's a straight red. But I thought then I might have got away with it. But I think that the fact there was the melee, and I say somebody, Manham come running in, pushed us, which I thought, oh, this is my chance to go down and take the pressure off myself. So I go down and just lie there, and you can hear stuff going on around. And I remember standing back up, and then Ruddick just come over, stood on both of my feet, and just pushed us. And I was like, I sort of went back and then come back for him, and he just sort of growled at us. But it was like the melee went on for a bit, and then the referee dragged me over, and I was like, come on, ref, my first tackle. I never make tackles, you know what I mean? Just because it's Liverpool, don't think you've got to be seen to give me a red. And yes, he pulled the red out, and then let's say Rob Jones followed us down the tunnel. Yeah, it was a shame because it was a night where I think I'd started the game really well. Again, I think I was playing in there against John Barnes and Jamie Redknapp, so it was a same night game at ROKER Park. But unfortunately for me, I took it a bit too far.
Yeah, I was about 10, 15 yards away from you. I was in the clock stand paddock.
Because he was side on John Barnes, I thought, I'll just leave one on him there. But it did actually, I sort of left the ground, which again, not like me, but heat of the moment.
If that was in Division 1, it would have been, wouldn't have even been a free
kick. That's what I say. If it wasn't Liverpool, that's what I was trying to say at the ref. Like, just because it's Liverpool, just because you know these, don't think you've got to be saying to send me off, But that's history.
Well, like you say, it was bad timing, and then when you come back, you start picking up niggly injuries pretty much for the rest of the season. I mean, do you think some of those injuries, because we mentioned it earlier on, but you're not even 21 by this point, and you've played kind of about 100 games already. I mean, do you think that was part of it?
I don't know. I think when you miss pre-season, it doesn't help you because you're playing catch up. And again, even the season before, I remember I've got a stress fracture in my foot, so I missed probably the pre-season the year before. So then you sort of play catch up. I think that year I ended up getting I think I got a hernia. We played Man United in the cup that year, didn't we? I think that was it.
Yeah.
But I'd had a problem with me groin for a couple of months, and it was hurting, and wasn't it till probably 2-3 weeks before that Man United game that they actually found out what was wrong. And I had a hernia, and they said, look, try and get through to the end of the season, you're going to need an operation. So that was sort of in your head, you're going to need that operation. But I'd been playing with it for 2 months previous, you know what I mean? So, and I come off half time in that Man United game, and I think I got the operation the day after. So that more or less back in them, like hernias now, you can get back within 2 weeks. Then it was like, I think you were talking nearly 2 months then.
Yeah.
So just large chunks of the season just sort of just drift by, So it was one of them, just right from the start, just never really got going.
Well, that's it. But I mean, when you did get in, because you had a blinder for the 6-0, because everyone obviously remembers Russell getting 4, but you were flying when you came in. It was just you couldn't make a run of it, could you?
Yeah, no, as I say, there was games when they played well, but again, just to say things back, it was always just playing catch up, and I think maybe it's around then. I think Gaffer's starting to become a bit sick of us being injured and stuff.
Well, I mean, was it made worse by the team doing well? Because it was a sudden kind of change at the club where obviously you were trying to get it back in before because we were struggling, and now they were doing well. I mean, did that make it even more frustrating, or did that help in some way?
Again, that year, I think more of it was the frustration of not being right. Just as I say, with the hernia and stuff like that, I just never felt right. But again, I was always happy because as a Sunderland supporter, I was always happy that the team was doing well, and going from what we've been through the previous 2 years where you're having manager sack, it was great to think, Jesus, we've a chance, and you just think could be in the Premier League next year. Yeah. It could be a Premier League player. So no, it was nothing but wanting the team to do well.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, we're going to win the title, and you become a Premier League player. Yeah, and obviously everyone was pretty, excited because it was our first year in the Premier, but it was our last season at ROKER as well. But I mean, as it turned out, I mean, only making kind of 7 appearances that season. I mean, how frustrating was that year when we were in the Premier League for you?
Yeah, again, I did sort of never started the season in the team, and I think I was actually fit that year. Yeah, I think I'd done the pre-season. I was fit. So yeah, it wasn't frustrating. I mean, I don't think I got in. I think that my first game in the Premier League was definitely my first start with Sheffield Wednesday at home, which again, I think you're probably looking up October, November time. Yeah. So yeah, again, you've done the pre-season, hope you're going to be involved, and then you sort of not getting a sniff. But the lads, we started the season well anyway. I think I had a little run of games. Again, never enough really to cement a place, I don't think.
Well, as a fan that season, it was just, it's one of those, because further down the line, I mean, we'll maybe come on to times when there might not have been an excuse for knocking on the door, but this season, we just seemed to have nothing going forward, and you were either sitting on the bench or not even on the bench, and you're standing in the stand going, well, we've got no going forward, and, it just seemed like a waste of a player.
Yeah. As I said, I had a few little run. I think the Everton game away and stuff. So I did have a little run of it.
That was a good day.
Yeah. But then again, I think around Christmas I had a problem with my hip. So I missed a couple of games again around there. And then again further, I think we played Spurs probably going into March. I ended up with a problem with my foot. I had to go to Lilleshall for a week or two to try and sort a problem with my foot out. So again, just not really getting a sustained run at anything. And it was one of them. It was like the Premier League. It was an eye opener, sort of. Even then, like how much quicker it was, and it was a more physical league in terms of sort of the strength and the opposition you were playing. So again, you've got to be more or less at least 90% fit to do yourself justice. And again, a lot of the time, just keep carrying stuff, niggles, and again, ultimately, especially for the club, just to go down with sort of record points. Massively disappointing.
Yeah. Well, your last start that season was talking about kind of slogs and tough games. It was Arsenal at home in January, which was a tough game.
Yeah.
Tony Adams scored the own goal, but that was it. That was a tough game. But 3 points and you played, and then I think the next game you dropped and then don't make another start.
Yeah, I think I come on. It is the Spurs game around there, and I come on against Spurs. I think it was a night game. I think we got beat 3 or 4.
We did. They scored early on.
Yeah.
The second minute. You came on with 20 minutes left. We were only 4-0 down when you came on.
Yeah, I think I hit the inside of the post. I think then you get my first Premier League goal.
Yeah.
Aye.
Really made a double substitution. You and Michael Bridges coming on with 20 minutes left.
Yeah, go on.
We're 4-0 down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a shot.
No. So again, there was some tough games that season. I remember sort of playing in games, and it was definitely a level up to what we'd been playing against.
Yeah, that was the season we had the cameras in as well with Premier Passions.
Yeah.
Were you glad you got out of the likes of what Craig Russell and Mickey Gray to get involved in the hotel room?
I know. See, you look back again, at the time. You sort of didn't really notice them, because I think it's because the gaffer just acted like the gaffer. You know what I mean? He wasn't bothered what he said in front of the cameras or anything. It just sort of became the norm, you know. But it was good to see it. Even now, you still sit and watch some of the stuff. Like it's superb. Like, but I think it just shows what Reid was like in terms of what he demanded from people.
Yeah. I'm not sure Craig Russell and Mickey Gray want to watch it too many times.
No.
I don't know why they made them lie in bed next to each other to interview them.
I know.
But yeah, I mean, getting towards the business end of the season, I mean, you end up getting a place on the bench for the last game at ROKER against Everton, but that was out of the blue because you hadn't been involved, and then suddenly you're put on the bench. But I imagine you're itching to get on in that one. Yeah,
it was. I mean, that was a huge game. Again, I think that was me just coming back. As I say, after that Spurs game, I'd be surprised if I was involved, because I had to go away and get me something done. I had a problem with the top of my foot, so I think that probably would have been my first game. Yeah, being on the bench. I mean, it was great because we brought Waddler in by then, and he'd always been like a hero of mine. So going back and training and being in and around him, and that Everton game was superb. What an atmosphere that was, you know, and what a result. And I see, you start to believe that we're going to steal. Yeah, it was emotional, and it was sort of the last game, sort of competitive game you'd play there after all them years of going.
Yeah, I was at the back of the foul. You just knew that as soon as that free kick was given, you just thought, this is going straight in the top corner.
No, it was too special. Like, special was Waddler, like, definitely.
As soon as the ref blew his whistle, there was this buzz straight away. Everyone was saying, we'll get him on it. But yeah, brilliant.
Superb.
Brilliant day. But we do end up getting relegated, and we'll move into the Stadium of Light. I mean, how did you find that? Because obviously we talked about you being there since the late 70s. I mean, how did you find the move that summer?
Yeah, I mean, it was strange. Even now, it's still strange driving down Rockwood and not seeing the ground there.
Yeah,
you know, it is. It's weird, but I mean, I didn't sort of go across till it was more or less ready. I know a few of the lads would go and check the progress, but I never went. But when you actually went in for the first time, so it just blew you away. It was just as much as you say, Rockport will always be my favourite, but it was a huge step up in terms of facility and what the club could potentially do being in there. So it was great. Sort of your first goal there and things like that. And there hasn't been loads of people who've scored at both grounds, so that's also something to be sort of proud of.
Yeah, and I mean, we've gone through all of this, but you're still only 22 at this point.
I feel like I've aged about 10 years to start about it.
Well, I mean, typical Sunderland, isn't it? How much goes on every year. But I mean, back in Division 1, you get a good run in the side as we'll pick up from a pretty poor start. You score a great goal against Huddersfield, and then on paper, I mean, you just look at the season, you look at the games. It seems to stop pretty abruptly when you're taken off at half time against Portsmouth when we're 3-1 up and Nicky Sunby comes on, but it just seems to suddenly stop.
Yeah, it was one of that. I was in the tears. Portsmouth I was playing well, and I got a kick and come off at half time, and I had a cut down the side of my shin and had a few stitches, and I sort of didn't go back on. And I was going to be playing at Bury on the Saturday. The gaffer just said, you play, because I'd had a good run actually. It was probably as good a run as I'd under the gaffer, and he was like, he'll play, but then the bloody typical me cut got infected, so I had an infection, and I was again that put me out for about another 10 days. Like the infection, they couldn't get it out. Gradually ended up getting it out. The physio managed to, oh my God, Jesus, the stuff that come out of it. But it was just like going from being like a cut with a few stitches to being an infection and missing time. And then obviously Buzzer gets in. He comes on and scores at Portsmouth. John O switches to the left. Buzzer goes on the right. And the rest is history. Yeah. You know what I mean? And again, the rest of that season, well, it was playoffs, yeah. I ended up having a knee operation, I think, in the January. I ended up with the first of me 9 knee operations that January, and that sort of I wouldn't have, did I? I wasn't involved, I don't think. I was at Wembley, obviously for the playoff final, but again, I can't really remember kicking the ball if I did at all that for the rest of that season.
Yeah, I mean, you said you had problems with injury, but again, was there any talk of you looking elsewhere or trying to get a loan deal to get fitness or anything like that?
No, as I say, I'd had the operation, I think maybe January, February, and it didn't seem to work. So as I say, come the summer, come the playoffs, I still hadn't trained. So no, there was no time me going, because I just wasn't fit. Spent, I think, the time in the physio room, just trying to figure out what was wrong with my knee.
Yeah, I mean, even the following season when we're kind of running away with it, I mean, when you get the odd chance, I mean, you're scoring goals, you're playing well again, but again, you seem to come in when we've got the odd injury, and then you're back to the bench again. Or
yeah, it was one of them that year. I knew Christmas. It was probably time. I could have left when Russ went to Man City. If I'd really wanted to go, I could have pushed and went then. Sort of a previous 2 years before I did leave, but again, I always felt I had the ability to get in the team. But it wasn't until I left. In hindsight, I knew I should have left 2 years previous. This year, I come in, I think, from the cold again, and again, I'd had this time I'd been fit. I was fit from pre-season all the way through. I think it was maybe October against Grimsby. Managed to score 2. I think we win 3-1. I think we go and play. I might have the wrong way around, but I'm sure we go and play Everton in the cup after that game. Yeah. And beat them on penalties. I played 120 minutes, and then on the Saturday, Paul Vale, I was dropped. You're like, oh, I've just scored 2 goals, 120 minutes, scored a penalty. We beat Everton, and then I'm back on the bench. And again, I think I go from being on the bench to not even being involved. Yeah. So you're going from a high of scoring 2, winning Everton, to being on the bench, to being just travelling man again. And again, come in before Christmas, I think again it was, against Paul Vale, played really well, and we win 2-0. Yeah. And then we play Palace, I think, on the Tuesday at home. I think we win 2-0, but I might have been taken off. But again, going from not playing any games to going and playing Saturday, Tuesday, sometimes it's easy. You think, well, at least we've won. I'll be back in Saturday. Gone again, and it was. I didn't realise at the time, probably that last year as well. Like me confidence must have been. I didn't feel it, but it wasn't, as I say, till I left and was somewhere I felt really wanted as the best came from us again. And again, even in that summer after we get promoted, Reid, he was, "What do you want? What do you want to stay?" Wanted me to stay again. You're like, you played me, I think, 4 games all season. You know what I mean? But I think, again, I just wondered if some of it was because I'd scored that goal. feel, just stay, we'll keep playing, but you stay, but you're not going to play. You know what I mean? You just wonder. But again, I say, like, I don't mean, because obviously I'd love playing with Sunderland, but for me career, I think if I'd have left 2 years earlier, you know, because if you look at that last 2 years, I didn't really play a lot of football, so it might have been better for me if I'd left.
I mean, during that time, obviously, when Sunderland got promoted to the Premier League and you had that conversation with Reid, I mean, were there a lot of offers on the table? Because you ended up signing for Sheffield United, but...
There wasn't massive, like, for somebody, as I say, I played so many games and scored so many goals. The offers weren't floating in. It did become a bit sort of, hang on a minute. But again, Reid said, look, if you get nothing, come back. It was one of them. But I went into Burnley on trial. They offered me a deal. And then I went to Ipswich. And I went down there for 5 days. They offered me a 2-year contract. And I was actually driving down to sign for them with Adrian Heath. Just says, look, I've managed to come up with something, come to Sheffield United. So I kept going to Ipswich and spoke to George Burley and says, look, I'm not signing. And he was fine, to be fair. I went and signed actually for Sheffield United 2 days before the season started, which was becoming a bit of a worry. You see it for sort of, I think I trained 5 days at Ipswich, maybe 4 days at Burnley. From sort of a pre-season, I was having to do everything myself, but actually kept myself in really good nick and went into Sheffield United with Inchy, obviously, who'd been at Sunderland with us, sort of my reserve team manager there. Obviously knew Reid, knew everything about us, where Reid wouldn't pick us. Inchy was like, just get here. And again, Inchy he could get the best out of us. You know, he was great for us and one of the big reasons I went to Sheffield.
Yeah. I mean, as you moved to Sheffield United, I mean, do you think, because actually, I mean, you talk about those 2 years, but I mean, actually, you've almost had 4 years of being in and out the side at Sunderland, but do you think that impacted your career in the long term, having that?
Again, you don't know what happens. See, I had so many injuries, and even when I left, you know what I mean, I ended up having, I think, 11 operations. From that first one, the day after the Man United game, I ended up having 11 operations through my career. So it wasn't, I never sort of got rid of that. There was on maybe 1 or 2 seasons where I got a lot of football in, you know, just, I don't know whether my body just couldn't cope, to be honest, you know. And again, it's one of them, you just think what might have been if your body had held up. But yeah, so I mean, as I say, from not playing a lot of games in 4 years, just to go somewhere, and again, just felt like you were the main man again, going to Sheffield United. As I said, it couldn't have went any better there for me. Saying that, I managed to get Inchy was there about October, so didn't go so well. It didn't go well for him, but as for me, on just being on the pitch and just scoring goals, and just enjoying my football again, just knowing I was going to play every week.
And then you moved to West Yorkshire to Huddersfield Town for 3 years, and then 3 years at Northampton after that, where I think, I mean, doing a bit of reading about it, I mean, I think as much of a legend in Northampton as you are at Sunderland, looking at it. Yeah,
I went there. It was one of them I left Sheffield United in the January. Neil Warner come in. Really enjoyed playing for him, actually, but it was one of them. I got the feeling he was offering me a contract to stay so he could sell me in the summer. So I thought, I might as well just go now. And I was close to signing for Notts Forest, and I had to tell David Platt just before the press conference I went in the City Ground that I wasn't signing. That didn't go down too well. And then I went across to Huddersfield and did the press conference there in the afternoon. But yeah, I spent 3 years at Huddersfield, loved it there again. Missed a whole year, 1 year, where I missed 15 months with knee injuries. And then managed to get back in me last season in there, and the club went into administration. But again, for me on the pitch, I'd sort of been told the year before, 27, you finished. Like my knees, your knees shot, you got no cartilage left. And I was just like, that was sort of, wow, that's a pull from the blue. From people saying, "Oh, we're not sure what's wrong with your knees," to "you finished." But again, I managed to thought, "Nah, I'm not having it," and got fit and played more or less the whole season the year after. We got relegated, but I think I scored 98 goals from midfield in a relegated team. So again, bad time for a club, but I was just happy to be back playing and doing well, and thinking, right, I might get a decent move on the back of this. And there was one or two things, but then ended up dropping to League Two with Northampton again. It was one of them when I first signed. Martin Wilkinson it took us on. And for the first couple of months, I was like, "What the hell have you done coming here?" It was like Billy Smart Circus. It was terrible. It was so unprofessional. I hated it.
Well, you had some offers from higher up at the time as well, didn't you?
Again, yeah. Even when I was at Northampton, I could have left and went. I think Barnsley. There was odd times there was talking about I could have went back to the Championship, but honestly, I just knew my body, and if I went, I'd be spending more time not playing because it's just the demands of the higher leagues. I just knew I had to find somewhere where I was just my body was comfortable. So again, say I could have left Northampton after the first year and went to Barnsley. As I say, I think it was Barnsley, but I thought might be more money, but I'm just going to be sat on the physio bench.
Yeah.
You know, that it was like I'm not doing. I'd rather play at levels where I know because he had a great manager, Colin Calder, would come in, and he was absolutely, for me, he was the best manager I had. Just trusted me, sort of my ability. And people might get surprised, but I was very professional by this stage of my career. So I loved the sessions he put on. We were so fit, and I just sort of loved being there. Let's say I was happy playing football and going back them years where you didn't play. I was just happy knowing I was first name on the team sheet if I was fit and I was going to play. You know, so I was just happy there. So I've done 3 years down there before I decided I wanted to come back to the northeast. Yeah. Before my son grew up with a southern accent.
Yeah, because I mean, the other thing I read was that you moved back up to Darlington, but Northampton Town were desperate to keep you there, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, I mean, Colin had left, he'd gone to Notts Forest. If he'd stayed, I mean, we got promoted. I mean, 2 years on the bounce, I got done with Northampton in the playoffs. But the last year I was there, we actually got up. And so it was a big decision to leave and say, but Colin had left, gone to Notts Forest. And I just thought, I knew my body didn't have a lot longer left. You know, I was really fighting just to train day to day. And I just thought, if I'm ever going to have a chance to go back sort of up north, which I want to do, finish up here anyway, now's to do it. And then Darlington came on, Dave Hodgson came on to us, and he just says, if you're looking to come back up, we'd love to take you. So it was a tough decision to leave Northampton. As I say, they'd done everything. John Gorman come round my house. Ian Sampson, people Sunderland fans remember he come round try and convince us to stay, but as I say, it just felt the time was right to come back home because, as I say, I knew I wasn't going to play very much longer. I might as well leave them on a high before they were sick of us. So yeah, come back up with Hodgie, which was great. And, he knew sort of what I was about, and he knew I wouldn't pass the medical. So I went in to see the physio, and he says, "Can you touch your toes?" I said, "I'm not sure." I said, "I'm not sure." He said, "I didn't worry. Hodgie's just said we've got to sign you anyway." So I come back, and I had actually a really good first year at Darlington. Scored a couple of the best goals I've scored in my career, and Hodgie came. But Hodgie didn't last. I think Hodgie lasted till about October. Dave Penny come in, but he was great. But again, towards the end of the season, I was just starting to feel my knee again. So I played sort of maybe the last 2 months, knowing get the summer I'm going to have to have an operation again. So I got that summer and went in and got what I was hoping was just going to be a clear out. But he sort of said there's basically nothing left in there. It's like bone on bone.
Yeah.
So I knew it was going to be tough coming back, and I did. I got back, I played a couple of reserve, couple of first team games, but I remember I think I was playing Macclesfield, and somebody just sort of give me a good strong tackle. I'm nothing out of the ordinary. My knee just went up like a balloon. So sort of then I knew that was it, and then sort of come to probably had about a month, 6 weeks of trying to do something with it, but it wasn't right. So we just agreed to sort of mutual contract, and that was it. Paid me up, and I was retired from the professional game. Yeah.
Did you play one game for Kettering as well a couple of years later?
I went. My mate was Lee Harper was in charge, who I was at Northampton with. He'd got the job, and he just says, "What you doing?" I said, "Well, again, time scale, I might not be right, but I'd left Darlow."
You left.
Yeah, they got the summer, maybe went down there, and I drove down on Saturday morning and got there, and actually ended up coming on against Darlington of all the teams. I think I played about 25 minutes, and sort of Harps. I went and saw Harps after. They saw, "What you signed for us?" He said, "We've got a game Tuesday." I said, "Yeah." I said, "I will, mate." I said, "Look, I says, I'll keep yourself right in the north east, but I kind of be coming down here to train Tuesday, Thursday night. He said, no, just do what you want, like, as long as you play on Saturday. And then he rang us on the Monday. He says, he says, the chairman, he says, we can't sign anybody as old as you. And I was like, what? I says, what? And he says, because it was that chairman who was an absolute crackpot. And I said, just didn't get in trouble with the chairman for me, you know what I mean? I said, I'm not that bothered. I said, took me 4 hours to get home on Saturday, you know what I mean, mate? So I played one game for them, and then again, ended up playing twice for Blythe. I did two games for Blythe, but they were there. I played on a Saturday and a Tuesday, both home games, and then the manager after says, right, lads, we're not training Thursday, but we'll be meeting at 6:30 on Saturday morning to travel to somewhere. And I was like, 6:30? I'm thinking, gee, like, I'd played at a good level, so it was like, I can't be getting up at 6:30 to travel to play in front of more money, dog, you know what I mean? Even though I was like happy to be back and I still could do. So I went and played, like Neil Hickson had been on to me for Sunderland RC ever since I'd sort of left on. He says, like, just come play the Northern League, and he says, I said, well, I told him I was going to buy. He says, you'll not want to do the travelling. He says, where you've been playing, and he says, you're not going to want to do the travelling. And so I just rang him and said, Hickey, you were right. So I went and played 6 months at Sunderland RCA, which I absolutely loved. Yeah, it's fantastic.
We get on to the modern day, and you're now a consultant at Mark Gabardini's Quantum Sport. So what does the role of consultant involve?
You're just scouting and trying to look after player. I mean, it's just another name for an agent, really. But I'm not an agent. I'm not qualified, but I just said I was at base soccer. I actually, when Danny Rose come to Sunderland, I helped do that for base soccer. So I was at base for 5 years, and then I left them and sort of did. Well, I had a couple of things I was hoping to do, but I was playing Sunday morning football, and guess what? The old injury struck again. I done my Achilles playing up at Silksworth Ski Slope. Believe it or not.
Of all the places.
Yeah. I think we were getting beat at the time, and I'd believe not, the last shot I probably ever had was as 11-a-side player, stuck over the bar, Silksworth Ski Slope. Like a half volley, which I would back myself 9 times out of 10 at the target. I skied it and went back the halfway line. The keeper kicked the ball in the air, and I just took it down my thigh and pushed off, and I just felt an almighty just whack in the back of my calf. And I turned round. I looked. I didn't think there was anybody near. So I got up and I just said, "This guy, what the effing are you doing?" And he says, "Mate, I was nowhere near," and I actually fell the bang. So it was I'd done my Achilles up there. And it was basically 2 lads on the shoulders, chucked me on the side of the pitch and says, "We need your shirt." And you're like, this is how it all ended. I hobbled up to the car park on my own and partially ruptured my Achilles. So I was on the settee for about 6 months. So going from leaving the job to hopefully going into something else, that was just out the window. So I ended up having to go back into on this side of things. So just working for Quantum Sport now, just doing sort of bits and pieces on the agency side. But obviously the way things are at the minute, everything's really quiet.
Yeah, I mean, does your role take you back to the stadium like much, or are you all over the place?
I go to as many home games as I can. My son loves it. It's one of the things. I've had him at Wembley's, and we've been to a few away games, and we go as often as we can at the home games. So I get there. I mean, there's times when I go on the inside, but I still like just driving across, parting up with my mum and dad's up the top of Newcastle Road and just walking down with my son to the game. It's just what I used to do. It's good. If I fancy a few pints, I'll ditch him, like, but no. So I still go when I can.
Yeah, I've just started taking my 6-year-old, the poor little bugger. He doesn't know what he's in
for. I know. I mean, he even said the other day, his dad, like, got to be the worst time ever. He's Sunderland fan. And you think, probably right.
Yeah. I mean, as a fan, what do you see now when you look at the club?
It's disappointing. It's got to be, from where we were. Again, talking to my son, and you see goals like Defoe's, and you just think, geez, that's not even that long ago. You know what I mean? How far we've fallen. It's criminal, really. Just sort of mismanagement and wrong appointments. To see where we are now. And just to see how we're going to get out of it. That's the thing. It's disappointing when you think. I say when I first started going, you always have hopes that you're going to be in the top leagues, and we've had some good times, but to be sort of lower than where we are when I first started going, it's just it's sort of hard to take.
Yeah, well, we'll maybe need some fan who knows how the inside of the game works. Martin involved.
That'd be nice. No, dear,
you never know.
I think there's so many things that have gone wrong appointments, haven't there? And say for all the money Ella Short put in, just probably is appointing the wrong people to look after it dear for him. Say what could have been so different. Just hopefully, as I say, there's talk of investment and people taking over now, which I think if we're going to move forward, I think it's probably needed.
Yeah, we've been here before, haven't we?
Yeah, it gets a bit more tiring the older you get, doesn't it? You've become a bit more realistic.
Yeah, I feel like such a bad parent getting him a ticket for the match when I get round. Right, and finally, I've done this with a few others, and I found one for yourself. So I thought I'd do this with you, see how you get on. What I've dug out is the Sunderland Annual from 1995.
Oh.
Yeah.
I tell you, I know I've got Mark was on the front, is he?
No, 95. You're on the front. Yeah, you're on the front with Phil Gray and Jim Baxter's on the front as well.
Right.
So there you go. But,
I was thinking the one with Mark won with the Hummel strip.
No, that was 91.
Was it?
Where he's going up for the header.
Yes.
That's 91. So the Martin Smith fact file. So you would have been about 20 around this time.
What was going on in my head then?
Yeah, well, we'll find out. We've got your all-time top 5 favourite records. So what do you think was in your top 5 as a 20-year-old?
Top 5? Madness will have been in there.
Nope, no madness. No. Shock with the first one.
The Oasis?
No. I think you're trying to save yourself considering what I'm reading.
I'm trying to think what I would have said. One must be there, then, are they?
No. They might have made it up, of course. I don't know, that's the other option.
Well, I can't remember the 95 though, so I think I might have.
Right. I can bring out your misery. Yes. We've got
Brian. 69?
Yes, number 1. That's right at the top. Yeah, that was your top.
Wild Boys?
No, that's not that. I can, if you're going to be embarrassed even more, I can go through the other 4 in case you mentioned anything else.
That was the first record I bought. Wild Boys, I thought,
Well, we've got at number 2, we've got, which, you get your bit of respect back with this one. You get With or Without You, U2.
Right.
And then number 3, you've got Dignity, Deacon Blue.
I still like a bit of Dignity, especially after a few wheels.
Oh, yeah. And then you've got, at number 4, you've got Love Is All Around, Wet, Wet, Wet. And then at number 5, of course, soundtrack of the Premier League. Year later, but you've got Don't You Forget About Me, Simple Minds.
Yeah. To be honest, yeah. After 11 o'clock on a Saturday night, if I've had a few in the house, most of them will still come on, to be honest. And brilliant. A bit of Wham and Duran.
Well, on that note, I just want to say I've really enjoyed that, Martin, catching up with you. It's been brilliant, and really appreciate your time. So thank you very much for that. Really enjoyed it. Good stuff. I hope we'll catch up soon, but that was fantastic.
Spot on, Chris.
Okay, well, we'll speak to everyone soon. Bye for now.